What is going on, guys? It's Mohamed from Yhung Kings, and I'm here with another deck profile. This deck is absolutely incredible, but I absolutely hate it 100%. This deck makes me so mad. Why? It's because it just happens to be a Relinquished deck, and if you guys watch the show and everything, this is the deck that Pegasus used to torment Yugi in the duel in the Shadow game, which was absolutely like horrific. I looked into this deck. It's actually really good, and it's actually so good. And I was introduced back into it because of one of my co-workers, Dorothy, who absolutely loves this deck, and she dueled me with it. But yeah, she gave me a little bit of a headache. But looking into the deck, like there were some things that I actually added some of my own personal changes to it because I thought it'd make the deck a lot more versatile. But yeah, anyways, like this deck is actually super good, and it can be so annoying to just absorb your opponent's monster, just give them monsters just to absorb them back or just fuse them again. And unfortunately, this deck does not have that many Eyes Restrict fusion monsters, so you have to maximize on them. But other than that, like this deck is just incredible. So let's just get right into it, boy. Alright, so before we get into the video, I need to tell you guys that many of the cards I'm actually going to be proxying because either Dorothy doesn't have them, or I personally don't have them or haven't received them yet. Not do that. But anyways, let's just get right into it. So first, you're obviously going to play, because it's a Relinquished deck after all, you're going to play 3 copies of Relinquished himself, which, oh man, this card is just so disgusting. I just hate looking at it. But it's actually really good because it's a level 1, so you can literally like make this with anything. And then also once per turn you can like absorb an opponent's monster, and it gains attack equal to that. And then every time this card gets attacked, you just send the equipped monster to the graveyard, and then your opponent takes the damage, not you. Next, you're gonna play 3 copies of Thousand Eyes Idol. Now this just happens to be the weakest monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like this is just a garbage ass monster. Like level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. Like this is just terrible. But it's actually 1000% important in this deck, because why? You can literally like call out Relinquish like with this card just by showing you the ritual card that we're actually going to use. And then also you want to maximize seeing this because of the fusion card that Relinquish and Thousand Eyes Idol make, which is Thousand Eyes Restrict. So yeah, actually this card is like 1000% important in this deck. So you want to actually play 3 copies of it. Next, you're going to play 3 copies of Millennium Eyes Illusionist, which actually is very important because you target one effect monster your opponent controls by discarding it, and then equip it to Relinquish. So Relinquish, you can get really big because of this card, because you basically double up Relinquish's effect. So actually maximizing seeing this card is really good. And then this also helps like recycle your Relinquish by because when it goes to the graveyard, it's like you can keep recycling over and over again. So this card is absolutely important in this deck. Next, you want to play 1 copy of Illusionist Faceless Magician. Now, I was considering cutting this card out completely because this is an absolute brick of a card, but I feel like it's a really good one-of because I mean, it's able to recycle itself, when you send it to the graveyard. But yeah, other than that, there's not really much to this card except recycling your Relinquish cards as well. But it's like a level 5, very hard to get out, and then it's just not the best card, but it comes up sometimes, so you actually want to play this at 1. So yeah, there's that. Next, you want to play 1 copy of Witch of the Black Forest, which I was thinking about running at 3, but I feel like there's just so many other cards that you need to run. But it's a good normal summon of the deck where you just normal summon it. You get rid of it with the one of the ritual cards, more likely Dark Illusion Ritual. And then when it goes to graveyard, you search out like any of one of your relinquished monsters you need. So yeah, there's that. Next, you want to play 3 copies of this one, the Mad Flame Kaiju, which, I mean, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest with you, you actually want to play, like, as many Kaijus in this deck as possible, like, if you can, which, I mean, I don't have that many Kaijus with me, but I would suggest just playing any, like, Kaijus, like, literally don't even play 3 of, like, this Kaiju alone, like, just play, like, any single Kaiju, like, until your deck reaches like 40 cards, because Kaijus are actually so good in this deck. Like, you literally give your opponent a Kaiju and then you take it back with Relinquished, or you know, you give them a Kaiju and then you just like pop it with like in fact, I would actually suggest you guys to get the Radiant, the multi-dimensional Kaiju, because it's a dark monster and you give it to them and then you super poly, and then it's just absolutely incredible what you do with that card. So like, definitely you want to maximize on seeing Kaijus. Next, you're going to play 3 copies of something I added to this deck, which is the Winged Dragon of Raw Spear Mode. Now, you can sub this out for Nibiru, but I feel like this is slightly better than Nibiru. And why is that? Especially for this deck, it's actually 100 times better than Nibiru. But you can, if you want, you can put in like 1 Nibiru if you want, but here's why you want to actually have the Winged Dragon on. So, you know, if your opponent has like a board and you know, you don't want to give them just one Kai, you want to like wipe out most of their monsters because they have like a board, this is the way to do it. So you like wipe out 3 of their monsters with Winged Dragon of Ra. And because it's an effect monster, it's actually really good what you can do here. So if you have a Relinquish here on your turn, you give them this, and then this is why this deck is actually so good going second. So you give them this, and then you super poly. So you wipe out their board while also super polying, and that's how you style on your opponent, just by doing stuff like that. So this is why actually this card is really good for this deck, because it's a board wipe, and at the same time you super poly it and then just get like your Millennium Azure Strix. So this is why this card is actually 100 times better than Nibiru, because you give it to them on their turn, and like, what can you do from there unless you have super poly already set? But most of the time you're not going to have super poly set, so I mean, come on now. And then next, I have to proxy this card, but you play 3 copies of Manjo the 10,000 Hands, because you want to search out your ritual spells or ritual monsters. You want to search them out and then, you know, use this as fusion material. Like, this deck like maximizes on search, or just draw power. Like, that's what you want to do. And even if they ash this, like, come on, like, they're absolute retards if they do that. So the monsters, now let's get into the spells. So for the spells, you want to play 3 copies of Relinquished Fusion. And this card is absolutely incredible because you can fusion summon 1 Eyes Restrict Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from your hand, field, or graveyard. And you can like banish this card during your main phase, and then you can take another monster, you can like absorb another monster your opponent controls. And this is why this card is absolutely incredible. It's like so freaking broken. And then, you know, you can easily like recycle cards like this with what we're going to place. I'll show you guys soon. First, you're gonna play 3 copies of Preparation of Rites, which is absolutely incredible for this deck, because all your ritual monsters are like level 1, so like there's nothing you gotta worry about. But yeah, Preparation's Rites is really good, because you know, it's a mandatory search for ritual decks. So yeah, there's that. Next, you want to play 3 copies of Black Illusion Ritual, which, oh man, this is just taking me back to the old days when, you know, I just always hear Pegasus like, woo, Yugi boy, Kaiba boy, all that. Yeah, anyways, so yeah, this is the ritual spell for Relinquished, and yeah, there's no need for me to explain that. Next, you want to play. Oops, my bad. 3 copies of Advanced Ritual Art. Now, here's the reason why. Because this lets you ritual summon from your deck, like using materials from your deck. So obviously your target is Thousand Eyes Idol. So you get your Relinquished, and then if you have Relinquished Fusion in your hand, you fusion summon into Thousand Eye Restrict. So this is like a really good extender in this deck. So you're just playing so many ritual cards. Next, you want to play 3 copies of Burial from a Different Dimension, because you want to actually maximize seeing your banished monster or banished cards in your graveyard, and constantly use the effect of Relinquished Fusion to continuously absorb monsters your opponent controls and just board wipe them completely. So yeah, you want to actually maximize seeing this card. And then you want to play 1 copy of Instant Fusion, because unfortunately this card my apologies. This card is actually, I wish this was at 3, but unfortunately it's on the ban list. But you pay 1,000 life points and then fusion summon 1 level 5 or lower fusion monster, but it can't attack. But that's not the important thing. So you use this to special summon one of your Relinquished monsters, preferably the Thousand Eyes, because you're not gonna get into that one most. You want to save your Millennium Eyes, and then you want to use its effect, absorb, link it off, do whatever, or overlay into, and then yeah. So this card is actually really, really good. I'm sad that it's at 1, but it is what it is. And then for just extra cards that I added to this deck, I played 2 Super Polys. Now I think we have so many fusion cards in this deck that, you know, you don't really need to play more than that, but you know, 2 is just a good number that I saw fit for this deck, and it's absolutely incredible what you can do with Super Poly. I would play it at 3, but I'm gonna play next 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, because, you know, just add extra draw power to the deck, and when you can, just add some dark monsters to the deck so you don't have to lose your Relinquishes. But it doesn't even matter if you banish a Relinquish from your deck, because we have Burial from a Different Dimension and all that. So yeah, you definitely want to maximize seeing Allure of Darkness. And so that's it for the main deck. Now let us get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, you're going to play 3 copies of Millennium. Okay, so for some reason we don't have a 3rd copy, which is incredible, which sucks, because this card is absolutely incredible, because this is like your Super Poly target. This is what you want to see more often. You want to keep like this, like if you, oh man, like I'm telling you guys, this has basically the same effect as Relinquish and all that, or you can literally, and because you can target effect monsters in your opponent's graveyard as well, and, you know, attach it to this one, and then, you know, it gains attack and defense, and, you know, just any monster that your opponent uses that, like, you absorb from the graveyard, its effects are negated. So this is absolutely incredible, this card. But unfortunately we don't have a 3rd copy with us at the moment, but definitely play this at 3. Next, you want to play 3 copies of Thousand Eyes Restrict, and you just want to maximize on this one, because this one you're going to target it with so many, like you're going to target it with like Instant Fusion, you're going to target it with you're going to use Relinquish Fusion. This is the one you want to go into more with Relinquish Fusion, but definitely this is also your Instant Fusion target. So yeah, there's that. Next, for the Xyz monsters, which I added 1 copy of Slacker Magician, and the reason why is because this card is actually a really good defensive card to add to the deck, especially because you run a lot of level 1s in this deck, and at the same time this is a good like effect negator. So like this is, so you just need a negate in this deck, so I thought, you know, why not add this one? And then, you know, it's also it has a pretty good defense, and, you know, yeah, there's that. Next, you want to play 3 copies of Link Karibo, which is a little bit ironic playing Link Karibo in the deck, known as Relinquished, which literally screwed. If you watch the anime, you'd remember that Yugi like literally destroyed Relinquished using Karibo. So so yeah, this is why this card is a little bit interesting in play this deck. But yeah, it's actually so important because you're playing so many level 1s in this deck that you need to maximize seeing Link Karibo and just recycling over and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, you just want to protect your Relinquishes just in case, like, you know, they end up with 0 attacks. So yeah, there's that. Next, you're gonna play 3 copies of Relinquished Anima, which, I mean, it's a Relinquished deck. So obviously, when they have a Link monster made for Relinquished, you want to play in the deck. So yeah, so this one is a little bit worse than the other Relinquishes because you can only absorb a monster that your opponent that points to that zone, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's why you kaiju their board and then place it on that zone, and then you absorb it with Relinquished Anima. So that's why you play it at 3, because that's why you play so many kaijus and you play so many of, like, literally whatever, and it's just an extra And for the last card you play in the deck, unfortunately I don't have it on me right now because it's in my other deck, but you want to play the 1 copy of, yes, I know it says Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon, but you guys know what I mean. You want to play Starving Venom. Why? Because this card is actually one of your super poly targets that you want to use, because you want to give your opponent the Kaiju Radiant, or if they ever summon a dark monster, so you give them, or you just give them a dark monster and then you fusion summon with your own dark monsters, because literally like 100% or like, not 100, my bad, like 90% of your deck is all dark monsters, so you want to just fusion summon into it. You can run Greedy, I mean, if you decide to run Predaplants in your extra deck or whatnot, but yeah, anyway, so you want to just give them a dark monster and then, you know, use Super Poly, get into Starving Venom because it's really good, and it's a good way to fight back if, you know, your Relinquishes are just like weak as shit. So yeah, there's that. So that's it for the extra deck. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you enjoyed this deck profile. I for one didn't, because obviously it's a Relinquished deck, and yeah. But anyways, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, get us to 100 subs by the end of this year, hopefully. And yeah, just stay safe, everyone.